Thanks again to POW Gaming and to Pokemon Labs for helping us pull off this event. Hopefully you guys all got hydrated or caffeinated like me. I am very excited for this match because it is full of Pokemon from this generation that I have been so happy and so excited to see. I love that a lot of the new Pokemon that you'll find here in Paldea are going to be Pokemon that you kind of look at and be like, hey, that's kind of weird, but we can make it work. And it was great because like on my playthrough I went, hey, this is kind of cool and I think it'd be really fun to use in VGC, and I'm really glad that other people are thinking about it as well. Also, quick off topic as a friendly reminder, if you have not done your Charizard Terra raids yet, it is time to do so. I finally unlocked them. It only took a very long time, but I will be getting a Charizard at some point this week. So also back to this game, there are a lot of Pokemon that I have been keeping an eye on. I'm like, yeah, cool, we're going to use this for VGC. That's going to be great. There is no Dodunzo for this one. I made sure of it. I double checked. I do need a break every now and then from that as well. But if you've watched anybody sort of ladder or any matches at all, you'll recognize all of these Pokemon as sort of staples at this point right now for teams. I love that it's sort of a mix as well of like old generations of Pokemon with new generations, and I think the best thing about terastallizing is that you're able to sort of bring back life into a lot of new Pokemon. Being able to change your typing is such an interesting strategy, and again, the fact that we have open team sheets on this means that a lot of maybe best of one gimmicks you might have are going to be a little different, but I think it still lends your opponents to be thinking, okay, I have to think about this now and what they're doing. So we will have Brian Collins versus Alex Marquez. Like I said, I'm very excited about some of these teams, and you'll find out exactly which Pokemon these are, because they are some of the ones that people have been sort of looking at to be like, okay, these are really good contenders. And I really like the idea of these, especially in generations where starter Pokemon are ones that you can use. Spoiler, there are some starter Pokemon on here from Paldea, not Quaxly's evolution. Pour one out for Quaxly, I guess. But both Masquerada and Skeledirge are going to make an appearance on here, and one of my favorite evolutions from a previous generation now is going to be here as well. So I will spoil it for you before we go into their team preview. There is going to be a King Gambit, and when I found out that Bisharp evolves, the pop-off that I did, I cannot even explain to you guys how exciting it was, and its ability that it gets for this generation is really cool. It still has access to Defiant, which is honestly one of the best abilities I think that you could have, just to get that, just to turn around that Intimidate or any sort of stat drop and be like, hey, I'll take the stat drops, but I will get those boosts instead. Supreme Overlord, the other one that it will have here. So Supreme Overlord also going to make it so it's that you're going to be, hey, any of my teammates that have fallen, they're gonna give me that extra boost. So just a quick thing that you had seen on Alex's side was that Dragonite, King Gambit, Goldengo, Ceruledge, Tauros, the water type here, and then Annihilate. So Tauros, I think a Pokemon that some people are kind of maybe looking at a little bit. It has 3 different bike types you can use. So again, I just went through that one here. So that Dragonite, King Gambit, Goldengo, that Ceruledge, Tauros, and Annihilate. Annihilate, a Pokemon that had the same typing as Marshadow, but Marshadow being mythical was never able to use here. Brian going to have the Hydreigon, Meowscarada, Maushold, Armarouge, Indeedee the female form, and Skeledirge. Okay. So we'll have both types of that Skeledirge, that Ceruledge and the Armarouge. So both of them actually going to be one on each side of here. The Maushold, one of those Pokemon I think people looked at and went, this thing is really adorable. Can it actually do stuff? And the answer is yes. And I was very excited about that, because it is one of those Pokemon I went, this is adorable. I hope it can do something. Meowscarada actually being able to get that critical hit every single time you pair it up with with grass terastallize, and just does insane amounts of damage. And Hydreigon kind of, I think, a left field, especially for a Pokemon that is quadruple weak to Fairy, being able to have sort of this oh, what a cute little sleeping Dragonite, but Hydreigon being able to, kind of negate its fairy type weakness is great. Hydreigon and Indeedee, I'm gonna hit the field here with Ceruledge and Dragonite. So dragons are coming out to play here. Psychic Surge from Indeedee, gonna change the terrain to Psychic Terrain, and no activation of any sort of Psychic Seed, which normally is what we'll see on a lot of Indeedees. So it's gonna be interesting to know, if you're looking at the item there, is gonna be really fun for Ryan, at least here. Dragonite, one of those Pokemon that is hopefully having its day in the sun. Sort of an OG Pokemon that at some point kind of worked a little bit, and now is having sort of like a field day with being able to come out to the field here and get a little bit more extreme speed though, gonna get stopped here by that second trade. Priority moves won't be able to hit Pokemon that are standing on here. Indeed, you're gonna be the center of attention with Follow Me here as Hydreigon goes for that Dark Pulse into that Sailor, almost knocks it out and is going to activate that Focus Sash. So that Hydreigon will be faster here, is going to lose HP with a Life Orb. Celebrate going for a Swords Dance. Gonna have to be careful about it next turn because it is at 1 HP and it is slower right now than that Hydreigon. And that's actually gonna be kind of rough here. Extreme speed, not going to be like move choice because obviously it won't work on this turn if you're going after that. Indeedee could go after the the Hydreigon because of the fact that it has Levitate. That Cellular is already in a pretty awkward position where it was able to get at least the Swords Dance off, but it already has to activate its Focus Sash. The Hydreigon is a little bit faster. Hydreigon actually holding the Life Orb is kind of an interesting choice, not something I'm used to seeing. I think we see more specs often than not. Alex opting to Terrasilize his Dragonite this turn for that Dragon Terra type as well. So we had seen that it had Outrage in its move pool, so we're going to do extra damage on that. The only downside, to Outrage is that you'll be confused at the end, which can also hurt against you. Indeedee, wanting to be center of attention again, going for that Follow Me. Dark Pulse going to just pick up that easy knockout on Cellular Edge because, it was at 1 HP. So that Swords Dance was kind of for not for it. Dragonite going to be able to at least attack into something, and here is going to be attacking into that MT, which was like, hey, you can come after me. Doesn't quite do enough to like get the knockout on here. Tauros going to become Tauros and Annihilate. So both Pokemon that might be in a little bit of a tough spot, but Tauros going to be the Pokemon of choice here for Alex. Again, it's going to be a Tauros that will be the Paldean Water type here. That Intimidate going to knock down the attack stat. Not really something that matters for either of these Pokemon, really. Hydreigon specifically, a very heavy special attacker here, is going to at least be able to knock out one of these Pokemon. If it's faster than the Dragonite can just take down that Hydreigon. But Hydreigon able to at least prove, hey, I'm the faster one here. I'm able to do some damage into things before you can probably knock me out here. Indeed, being able to hold on is another turn where you can go, yep, just like that, follow me, and it's saying, hey, I'm going to be the center of attention here. You cannot touch my partner until you knock me out first. And so Hydreigon going for the Dragon Leader, going to do super effective damage into that Dragonite. But that multi-scale at least able to help it out a little bit here. And is that a weakness policy? Oh, it is a weakness policy Dragonite. But again, it is slower than that Hydreigon. So even if that Hydreigon was at -2, it'll still gonna be able to pick up a knockout here. However, Tauros going for the Wave Crash first is going to knock out that Indeedee. So that Hydreigon just gave that Dragonite a little bit of extra boost to really go after it right now. Tauros is going to take a little bit of a recoil here, but that plus from the weakness policy and the Terrasilizing going to be super effective is going to be enough to knock out this Hydreigon. So Ryan losing 2 Pokemon in this turn, indeed was able to at least draw the attention to itself and let Hydreigon have some chances of being able to to knock out another Pokemon. That Maushold, this family of 4, and this Meowscarada, these Maushold are ready to take on the world as a family. Meowscarada, one of those Pokemon specifically that I think a lot of people are really, this is going to be a scary Pokemon to use. We see Brian going for his Terrasilize here. Either one of these actually kind of terrifying, but it's going to be that Meowscarada. It is going to have its Grass Terra type. Honestly, probably one of the easiest choices you can make for the specific Pokemon with that Flower Trick. Just absolutely demolishing, really, that guaranteed critical hit and smoothing super effective damage. That Tauros just did not have a chance. It is getting put out to the field because of that Meowscarada. Was at least able to knock out that Indeedee, but it's still kind of terrible. Population Bomb, one of the coolest moves in here. It doesn't take much to knock out this Dragonite. It was on its last wings and only really needed 1 hit, really, but this kind of combination as your back end for your team is still a scary thing to deal with, right? Especially since you only have 1 Pokemon left. You can clean it up really easy with your Brian. Flower Trick, Population Bomb won't really touch it, obviously, because this is a ghost type. Um, but I think Annihilate is probably one of those Pokemon that has a really great sort of unique typing out here. But Masho's saying, hey, come over here, you're gonna hit me anyway, which I think we had seen Alex click into it anyway. But Flower Trick from Yaskarado once more. Just a really cool move to see, like, the guaranteed critical hit every single time, plus that like extra boost from that Grass Terra type. Not enough to knock out that Annihilate, but that Annihilate is able to at least knock out that Mashold. We see the Yaskarado is clearly faster than Annihilate, and if it was able to maybe hang on before, it definitely won't with that defense drop. But it was enough for Psychic Turn to at least disappear, and it's a 1v1, but that Yaskarado faster, and with Flower Trick hitting into there, it's sort of just a guaranteed victory. And Brian's going to be able to take this game 1, which honestly that Indeedee and that Hydreigon combination, really fantastic for Brian. Was able to sort of knock down that Ceruledge and get rid of that Dragonite later on. Dragonite was able to take back that Hydreigon, but it was a little bit too little too late in that instance. So I think if you're looking at this game too, the Ceruledge is one of those Pokemon that you might think about leaving behind, and when you're looking at how fast all those other Pokemon are, if you're Alex, you're thinking to yourself, okay, that Hydreigon and that Indeedee are going to be a problem for me. And if you're Brian, like, maybe that's the same like 4 that you bring, right? It dealt with everything pretty easily. If you have Pokemon there that are like, hey, I'm going to use Follow Me, they're not going to be able to do much for it. They'll have to invest a little bit more into getting rid of that, while Indeedee or Mashold's partner is able to just sort of wreak havoc on everything. The Tauros is really nice in this instance, but now that you know that there's that Meowscarada as well, maybe you brought it for a potential Skeledirge, but honestly, like in this case, like Meowscarada is probably just more like the bigger threats here, and I don't think there's anything wrong with just maybe leading Indeedee and Hydreigon again, because you can just Follow Me, let Hydreigon do what it does best, and just say, you know what, screw it, like, yeah, you can maybe hit this Hydreigon, but you have to get rid of Indeedee first, you have to get rid of the Follow Me partners, and Yaskarado and Mashold in the back, just one of them being able to do a critical hit every single time, the other one having a move that could possibly hit up to 10 times, like, that's how do you stop that? And I mean, Annihilate is a great answer to it, but we saw that Annihilate was at least able to land that close combat on there, and like Mashold went down. But honestly, if it takes that long to invest into taking out Pokemon, then there's a little bit of a change that needs to happen here for Alex. I think he locked in the same 4 that he brought before, just not leading with the Ceruledge this time. Because we only really saw it go for a Swords Dance, and it's not really the pseudo that like the excuse that people were sort of going for. I think we've seen more Armorage than we have Ceruledge in most instances. But Indeedee Hydreigon, again, nothing wrong with leading that. You know, you quick Follow Me, you make sure that like, hey, Hydreigon is going to be able to just go after whatever it wants. The Tauros doesn't intimidate. Again, not going to matter for either of these Pokemon, just because they're Hydreigon's just a special attacker here. The Intimidate did go before that Psychic Surge went, so a little bit of a hint there to see which one is at least faster. And so we know Hydreigon goes. Hydreigon might be able to outspeed this Tauros. Tauros has been really fast this generation. Just from the outgo, having that having that outrage, just saying, hey, I'm not even gonna deal with it, don't have to worry about like falling for the extreme speed again. And I will say, as an aesthetic thing, this generation, at least the terrains are a lot easier to see. They are very in your face this time, which really great. Dragonite terrestrializing one more time into that dragon type. We know it has that weakness policy, so it can do a massive ton of damage. Even if it gets hit by like a Dragon Leader, that multi-scale, able to protect at least for one turn. Indeed, doing what it does best right now, going for the Follow Me, asking everyone to look at it, as Hydreigon actually opts for the Tailwind just to guarantee Brian that speed advantage for later on. Tauros going for the Wave Crash is going to take some recoil damage, but is able to chip down, actually gets a critical hit on the Indeedee, knocks it out, which leaves this Dragonite free to outrage into that Hydreigon, which actually might be enough to just knock it out with that with that terastallizing as well. I don't. Yep, I was like, that Hydreigon's just gonna go down this turn. Another critical hit too. So double crits on this side. I don't actually think that critical hit matters for that Hydreigon with that like extra boost from the Terra typing. But Brian losing his Pokemon immediately like that is a little rough, but we did see the same force from him as well. That Meowscarada and that Maushold are going to have to put in just extra work here as their comrades had fallen in that first turn. But again, not Pokemon that you could actually really sneeze at because they're still sort of terrors on their own. Again, like the grass Terra flower trick, and the fact that Meowscarada is fast, and you know you're able to at least knock out the Tauros with it. Maushold opting for a protect on this turn, and Meowscarada going for a fire trick. No terastallizing from this Meowscarada we've seen before. That Tauros, having taken heavy damage from its recoil, is going to get knocked out by that flower trick, and now it's just a matter of if Dragonite is going to hit into the Meowscarada spot or that protect spot instead. Outrage is actually going to go into the Maushold spot, which is really good for Brian because now that Meowscarada was able to go for a flower trick without being punished in any way, shape, or form, and now Dragonite's going to be confused on this turn. And actually, Ceruledge now it's going to have a pretty okay chance. It's going to switch on this turn. We know that it has that Focus Sash. It's going to just go straight for a Bitter Blade, and there's nothing this Meowscarada can kind of like negate any sort of damage because it's got a Grass Terra, so no matter what happens, you're still going to take super effective damage from it. Alex opting to go after both Pokemon instead of doubling down into one. Maushold could go for a Follow Me here and just redirect all the attacks there to protect the Meowscarada. But really at this point, it would just be Meowscarada trying to knock out as many Pokemon as possible. You know, the Dragonite having... Its only enemy right now is itself with that Outrage Confusion, and that Ceruledge is kind of in a pretty decent spot just to like switch in here. But Play Rough actually from the Meowscarada going to connect. So that damage that it did almost minimal just because of that multi-scale, and it activates that weakness policy, so you've got that plus now into that. But Maushold needs to double out into it. That multi-scale is now broken. I think the 10, as long as you get at least like 6, it should be fine. Dragonite gonna go down on this turn because of that Population Bomb. Technician to Population Bomb is probably one of the wildest things that you're like that I've seen before Pokemon in a while. I think it's such a cool sort of combination to do. But Bitter Blade from that Ceruledge going to almost knock out that Meowscarada is going to activate its Focus Sash as well here. So Meowscarada able to hang on for at least one more turn. That Tailwind is still up, but Meowscarada should be able to take care of this stuff here. It's just that Maushold has got to be really careful of that Annihilate. So, ew. Wait, did he just Shadow Sneak on terrain? Oh gosh, okay. Alright. Well, there was... Okay. You know, so this Ceruledge is trying its best, and it did more than it did last game. But... I mean... It's just... Oh, yikes. Okay. I mean, Brian's gonna go for a Grass Terastallize, and I don't know if it's gonna matter at this point because I'm pretty sure I saw Shadow Sneak get locked in for the Ceruledge. Honestly, if this Maushold has some other way to like hit this Annihilate, which I don't think it actually does because I think its only move is Population Bomb. It is, yep, okay, I did see that. So yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, so Psychic Terrain protecting from priority moves like Shadow Sneak, allowing this Meowscarada free reign against this Annihilate. So Annihilate is going for a Drain Punch to negate the damage that some of the damage it just took from that Meowscarada. I actually still think that Alex might have it just because I think Terrain is supposed to expire this turn, so now Shadow Sneak can knock out that Meowscarada here. Oh no, there's still one more turn. Okay. I mean, there's still no way to win. I just think that was an interesting... maybe they just forgotten it, but Meowscarada almost able to knock out that Ceruledge. We're gonna activate the Focus Sash before like knockoff takes effect. So yeah, man, I was not expecting that game to go that way. So you know. One of our players has finished early, so they will be hopping on with me for this game 3. So everyone say hi to Ben.
Hello.
So Ben got to watch me as the confusion on my face as I was like watching people click and moves and be like, oh, did that just happen? So finished quite early.
Yeah. I played real hard. Played really hard.
That's what we expect here from our BGC players in SoCal.
It's debatable.
So here you go. And I mean, I like Sidereal Edge. I think it's cool. I like it. I like its design better than Armorage.
Yeah.
But I think Armorage is the better Pokemon to use overall. I mean, the Sidereal Edge just kind of proved me wrong in this instance. I think the Hydreigon going down that first turn because of the wave crash from the Tauros and Indeedee sort of really helped Alex out. So normally I think mistakes, or like not mistakes, but like maybe like clicking into priority moves when there's a Secretarian could really hurt you, but I think at that point it was just sort of game over, right? Meowscarada doesn't have enough staying power in itself to be able to like take care of both Pokemon at like the same time.
Yeah, I mean, especially with Focus Sash, you essentially can't die to anything the Meowscarada does. It is interesting though, seeing that it's Swords Dance weak armor. Usually I think we see Terragraphs with Bulk Up.
Oh.
Usually it's like Bulk Up with Terragrass, Bitter Blade, Shadow Sneak, and then a variation of Protect, Terra Blast, or I'm sure it gets some other move.
It gets other moves that can help it out. I just think it's like one of those Pokemon that you look at it and you're like, ha, I really like your, I think you're really cool, but I think that your like counterpart has a little bit like better options to it. I think that always happens in Pokemon, right? Like you'll have like take for example like Sword and Shield, you have Zacian, Zamazenta, and clearly like there was one Pokemon that was a little bit better than the other one, and I in this generation it's less so of that most of the time, just because terrestrializing allows you to be like, hey, I'm weak to this, but what if I wasn't?
Yeah. I mean, especially for Sidereal Edge too, especially now we see it's being more so replaced by Annihilate, because it also just runs Bulk Up and Drain Punch, which happens to be on this team.
Yeah, Annihilate is just such a cool combination of Pokemon. Like I was saying, like Marshadow I loved, and I was so sad you could never use it, so Annihilate to me is like that spiritual successor. Ooh. Okay, so a little bit of a change for Brian is going to lead with that Indeedee and that Meowscarada versus Alex, who is going with his Game 2 lead of that Tauros and that Dragonite.
I mean, from here you're kind of just in a stuck position because you don't, I guess you can hit Outrage, but you aren't really threatening the Meowscarada with anything, and Indeedee, I guess depending on the bulk of the item, probably lives both attacks.
So a Psychic Seed never procced for Indeedee, so we know for sure that it's not holding that, and I think also Alex knows that, which is why like not super worried about it, which I think is an interesting choice. I know that like a Psychic Seed Indeedee was really popular just because it gives your Indeedee like an extra little bit of bulk to like handle moves, because we've seen it sort of get knocked out from one wave crash from this Tauros now.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because the players also know that this is a choice band Tauros, so there's really nothing stopping you from hitting Flower Gift into it, and you trading the Tauros is generally beneficial for you.
Yeah, especially because like Meowscarada is like I think one of the bigger threats here, but Indeedee going for a follow me and is gonna draw the attention to it. We know that that Tauros could at least knock it out, so Meowscarada going into that Flower Trick into that Tauros is gonna pick up that easy knockout here. I think one of those moves that, again, what you always get a critical hit like now too, is just like it's like one of those new things here. But Dragonite going for that Fire Punch, which was supposed to go into that Meowscarada, but instead is going into that Indeedee that chose Follow Me.
Yeah. I know some Tauros can EV to live it. Doesn't look like this one is though. So that's now you're just in a weird position again, because there's nothing, once again, nothing stopping this Meowscarada from just hitting knockoff into your Sidereal Edge.
My heart stopped for a second when I hovered over Shadow Sneak. I was like, no, please, not again, because it actually matters this time, because the Sidereal Edge isn't. You just have to hit it twice, right? And now, like, if you at least proc that Focus Sash, which you can do at least a little bit, then the Sidereal Edge is in a lot of trouble. But Indeedee saying, hey, follow me one more time. But Meowscarada saying, I'm gonna go for the knockoff here. Doesn't actually do as much damage as it did before, where it was able to proc that Focus Sash from the get-go. Is going to activate that weak armor. give it a little bit of give it a little bit of a boost. The focus sash doesn't even like really matter at this point, but Bitter Blade is gonna go into that. Indeed, isn't enough to pick up that knockout, but is able to heal up some of the damage it just took from that knockoff. Not quite enough to get it back to half health, but Dragonite going for an outright boosted by its Terastallized type is going to double down into that Indeedee, and Indeedee goes down, but I think it did a pretty good job of making sure that Meowscarada was protected.
Yeah. Now that's a pretty curious turn actually, because we assumed that like Dragonite would have killed the Indeedee, but okay. Ceruledge is instead faster and doesn't break the Meowscarada's focus sash.
No, and Skeledirge hitting the field, also one of those cool Pokemon that I love when starters can actually be useful in competitive nature. So you've got double starters on Brian's side. Skeledirge having Unaware as its like hidden ability this generation, you know, ignores all those stat boosts and stuff. So actually, even that weak armor is just like, nope, I do not see it, I do not perceive it. And the first time that we're actually seeing here, I love that the starters for this generation all have like a guaranteed sort of like secondary effect, right? You get that plus attack, so that plus special attack from Torch Song. It's a fairy type Skeledirge. This is great. Yeah. I'm living my best life.
Yeah, now this is really weird because there's nothing on this side so far that can touch this Skeledirge. Like, Ceruledge isn't really doing anything, and then you're pretty much banking on your Dragonite to hit into the right target now.
It doesn't even matter what target this Dragonite hits because one protected itself and the other's a fairy type now. Yeah, so this Meowscarada was like, nope, not today, guys. I'm going to protect myself. It is going to be confused now after those outrage turns, and I actually really love that change here. Shadow Ball from Skeledirge is going to pick up that knockout now on Ceruledge. There's too many like hard, like weird consonant combinations here, but that same Ford did so well for Alex, and I think the Skeledirge switch for Brian, the lead switch, really helped him out here.
Yeah, and I mean, now all that's left is depending on whatever you have in the back, you could pretty much pick a KO, and if you have Mousehold in the back, then you just pick the Annihilate to kill this turn, or if you have whatever else. What are the other Pokemon?
Yeah, I mean, you've got Hydreigon and Armorage. So, yeah, I think like at this point, right, you're just gonna go for that line maybe. But as it actually goes for the knockoff to knock off the weakness policy here into that Dragonite, it is gonna be confused. So if it could hit something, okay. This is like a double whammy because one, you have to break through the confusion, and then you have to hit a blind Hurricane, which is really rough.
Yeah.
Annihilate going to be able to proc that Focus Sash on Meowscarada. So one of the bigger threats here, but man, trying to hit a blind Hurricane is wild. Torch Song from Skeledirge going into that Dragonite, going to get that plus special attack to itself. Honestly, I'm guessing maybe you brought Hydreigon in the back then, because if you're not really worried about the Annihilate, right, I agree with you that you should have maybe doubled down on it if it's a Rory.
I mean, now you probably just, you're gambling again, right? You have to not only hit the right target.
Oh! Why? No! I mean, I guess like if you've got nothing else to do, right? Because if your outrage hits the wrong target, you're kind of screwed. But the play rough connecting here, gonna keep knocking down that Dragonite. Hey, cool! You got a critical hit on that Drain Punch into a resisted typing now, and Shadow Ball slowly but surely taking down this Dragonite. Remember, boys and girls, if there's a second train up on the field, if Pokemon are touching the ground, you cannot use priority moves on that. It would work if it was a Hydreigon, but not in this instance. And oof.
I mean, at that point, to be fair, I think the only out was probably a Hurricane Confuse on the Skeledirge.
Hey, you know what? Where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
So at least you can. I would rather take the chance of like maybe hitting and maybe getting that than like guaranteeing the Dragonite getting knocked out.
Yeah. To be fair, too. The terrain in this game is
better than it was last game.
Better than it was last game. But still hard to see.
It's right there in the middle.
Yeah, but it's not. You know, but 3DS game.
Yeah, but it's not what it was in like Sun and Moon. It was literally the entire bottom screen, and if you could not miss it at all. That's fair. I actually really love the Skeledirge in this. I think the Skeledirge was a fantastic choice, and I'm not just saying that because I chose Fuecoco.
No, it is a really fantastic Pokemon, actually. I don't think we normally see Terra Fairy, but you know, whatever works.
I think that's the it's interesting because I think now for like both games that I've watched so far, the Terra type has just been absolutely perfect for its matchup. Like last game it was for Frigoraph with electric Terrastalize versus the Dunzo, and it's like, oh, like that's literally what it's for. And I'm trying to figure out what the Skeledirge fairy type is for, right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe like just because like there's a bunch of dark type Pokemon running around in here, like it's like, hey, at least I can like negate that damage. And again, I think that's what makes this generation so interesting. It's a lot more thinking in terms of how do I maximize the terastalizing to make sure that my Pokemon can stay around a little bit longer.
Yeah, and for the fairy one, it's somewhat similar to probably like whatever. It's like you walled on Zozo order up, so I guess that's
oh yeah.
But...
that Pokemon combination to me is one of those that makes me think, hey, this was really funny, and then you put it on like in competitive and you're like, it's not really funny anymore. Like it's cool in game, and then you play against it and you're like, I am not looking forward to ever playing that. But thank you, Ben, for hopping on with me for this. We will see you guys for I guess our next round whenever people are ready. There's still a considerable amount of people playing. And again, if you have not done your Terra raids for Charizard yet, they are still up for this weekend at least. It is also currently Community Day for Pokemon Go. So if you need to go catch your shinies and trade fodder, now is the time to do it. I also, again, want to thank you all for joining us for this second round. There's still plenty more to come. We are going to have 5 rounds and then with the top 8 cut. I don't know, I'm like really excited to watch some more VGC. I forgot how much I missed it. But in the meantime, I'm gonna go hydrate. You should too. Go grab a snack and then get ready for our 3rd round. I will see you guys in a little bit.